Howdy y'all, I'm a friend, I'm a neighbor, I'm a local blacksmith, and welcome back to my channel and to my second video. Now, I want to go ahead and apologize in advance for the spotty editing in this video because in the process of making this product, I ended up with a problem where I could not record using the phone itself to fit and size the end product. Now, I'm going to be improving upon a pre-existing piece of equipment I already have. And what that is this little set of lenses that I bought. Now, these lenses work great. I absolutely love them. You have all kinds of different shots. You have fisheye, you have telephoto, you have wide angle. They're all working really great. My one issue with this is the mounting system, which is this little clamp with a threaded insert inside that it's just too loose. It's too weak. If I even shake the phone a little bit, it goes off center and it doesn't work. The lens is great, no problem with that. This needs to be improved. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a combination of wood and this cutting board, which I got at Walmart for 88 cents. It's already 1/8 inch thick, which is really good, and it's flexible and strong, so this is a good material to use for this. And the thickness of this is already 1/8 inch, so that's perfect. All I'd have to do is drill out the hole. I'm gonna take this out, put it in here, and I'm gonna show you guys the design I have in mind for what I'm going to make. So, I'm gonna start by talking about these circles. Now, the smallest circle here represents the camera itself that is on the phone. I'm lucky that the camera is actually center, because if it was over in a corner, this would be much more difficult. So I'm pretty glad for that. But the next circle up is the actual threaded insert, which is this. This I need to put there so that it lines up perfectly so I don't have to make any adjustments. The next size up is the size of the largest lens. And it's here in the measurements so that if I put it here in the measurements because I don't want to end up building this thing and putting it together and then the biggest lens doesn't fit for some reason. So this is just planning ahead. This rectangle with the line through it represents the point that it's going to get thicker. This whole thing is pretty much 1/8 inch, except for this point here. Now, the reason that this is thicker is because this is where the nuts and bolts are going to go that are going to screw tighter to lock this in place. So you have this whole distance here that is going to be the wraparound. You have these two over here that's going to wrap around on this side, and then you have one over here, so you have a fixed depth that way. And yeah, that's going to be the plan. So most of this is going to be the cutting board, and then you have the small bits of wood here and there and here that are going to do the wraparound, which is represented here. This is a side view, by the way. So yeah, you guys can see that it's going to get thicker here and here. This line represents the lens and the camera that goes out. So I'm going to have nuts and bolts go through this so that they screw together, tighten up, and don't go anywhere. So that is the plan. Yes, let's do that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started by drawing this out on here on the cutting board with more proper measurements. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this apart. Okay, so after a little bit of finagling and some biting, I actually did manage to get that threaded insert out. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drill the hole in the cutting board and then go ahead and cut out the rest of the shape out on the bandsaw. Nice and clean all the way through. Oh, hey. Oh. Huh. Well, that might be useful. I don't know what for, but I'll figure something out. Okay. Now that all right, now that that's cut out, I'm gonna go ahead and sand over the edges, round these out. This is cut out the way it needs to be now. The next step is these lines here. I need to cut that in half, and this is quarter inch, and then I need to get the wood ready, which I'm going to use to mount everything where it needs to be. So I'm going to do that next. Okay, so I have the wood I'm going to use to cut the I'm going to cut the wraparound parts, the ones that are going to look like this. Now, if I do it this way so that it wraps around like this, that's not strong enough because it's going to be pretty thin and small. So the grain is going to be working against me because of the sheets of wood. So it's better off if I do it that way so the holes are facing this way. So for right now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and cut this to length this way and drill the holes here so I can get to doing that, and I'll cut this shorter in the spots it needs to be shorter. So I wanted to make something that was more rigid, more simple to put on, and wouldn't come off. It would just stay in place. I didn't have to make any adjustments. It was just fine like that. And I succeeded, and I made this. Now, in the process of building it, I couldn't record fitting it to place because I was using the phone that I used to record to fit it into place. I couldn't record that. My compromise that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and actually make a second one of these, and I'm going to make a simple modification. I have the opportunity to work backwards and improve upon it to make the camera grip. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead, cut this out with the bandsaw, transfer it to here, cut that out with the bandsaw, then I'll get to a bit of shaping. Now I'm going to go ahead and sand this and make it look a little bit cleaner, then transfer it over to the cutting board so I can copy it, cut it out, and repeat the process. No, I didn't mention this last time, but this is just a very simple jig you can use to sand smaller radiuses, like here, using a drill, a dowel, some tape, and sandpaper. Very, very simple to make, very efficient, and very useful. Okay, so Now that I got this all nice and pretty looking, I can go ahead and transfer that to the cutting board, do the exact same thing, cut it out, sand it, make it look nice and pretty. And from there, I will show you guys how to make the wraparound. So now that I have these two pieces cut out, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys something using the already finished lens mount. So when I was making this, I made both of these, you know, the wood part and the plastic part on the inside the same size. But I then realized something, that in order for the wraparound to be put in place, I have to go less than the full width of the phone, which is shown here and here. You know, this is 100% that full width this way. So I can't make something to wrap around it without having to go a little bit less. So what I did was, like to an example, like the wooden one here, I had to cut off this line, which was a clamp anyway, this line right here, so this bit right here, and a little bit off of these two chunks. So I'm going to do that with this one, or actually maybe I could do it the other way around. Yeah, I'm going to do that actually. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that off of the wooden one, so this one can be on top. Yeah, okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to show you guys how I made these little wraparound parts. And super glue is such a great tool. For something small like this, it's perfect. So the way I made the pieces that wrap around, here is a small piece as an example. Now, wait. Okay. So I'm going to show you how I made these little pieces that I use to wrap around the phone. Now, what I did is I drew this here so you guys can see what's happening. Now, here we go. This line and this line are 1/8 inch from the edge. This circle is going to be drilled out with a 5/16 drill bit, and then you cut this out with the bandsaw. Now this, you cut along this line, which follows that 1/8 edge, and you follow along this line, right? And you follow along this line, which follows the center of the circle. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you quickly an example, and so you can see how this is done. Now all you gotta do is sand away the edges, because this is too big obviously, but you can sand this plane, that plane, to line up with this curve here. Gotta be very careful with these. So now you have something that'll wrap around the edge of the phone. So this is the part where things get a little customizable. This was the part that was hard for me to record, because I had to use the phone as the measurement system. So you have the piece of wood and plastic. This is going to be the plane that's going to make up where the lens would go, or if you just want it to be a camera grip. So the reason I have it set up this way, where I cut off this pieces here, here, and here, is so you have a platform to place these pieces to glue them on. Now, of course, the length at which you cut these varies depending on what phone you have, and even the radius of this wraparound varies on what kind of phone you have. You might have a thicker phone or a thinner phone. It depends. But either way, once you have this set up, all you have to do is get a little bit of super glue, put it on the edges here and here, and it can just stay on like that. Now, the next step from here is to glue all the things in place using the phone as a reference so you know it's lined up properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the grinder to knock some off the top and off the bottom to pretty much match that line meant for the flathead screwdriver. Now I'm using pliers because from sheer friction alone, this would get very, very hot. So I need to put it down and pick it up to do the other side. There we go. So now you can see that it's much more flat, and it'll fit in that little groove nicely. Now that will not spin out of place. Fits right into the groove. And if you want to be extra sure, you can just glue it in place. I have this cut up. I have the drills hold, and I have this little channel hold for the bolt. So now what I need to do, I'm going to cut this down this line on both sides, and then I'm going to go ahead and sand it. Okay, so I'm in pretty much the last step. I just have to glue the bolt in place, and that's pretty much it. So let me just do that quickly. So there we go. Make sure to put a little extra in the hole. Pretty much as soon as you put this through, you want to run the nut through it so that when it dries, there we go, so that when it dries, it doesn't have the glue, like the glue doesn't stop it from getting on. Okay, so putting the bolt on. Hey, come on, get on. There we go. So I'm running it through the whole length, so it's all smooth. Okay. Okay. Alright, now the other way around. Whenever this glue gets on your fingers, just say goodbye to friction. There's no such thing as friction. Friction is a lie. Okay. So here we have the completed product. Now this looks a little bit bigger, but this is literally just a large block of wood that I added so that you have a little bit more to grip when you're using it as the handle. And this little piece here is just for support for this piece, because I found that it was a little too small and it would break off easily with the glue. So I added this piece and glued it on the bottom and right there for support, so that way it doesn't break off as easily. But this is pretty much it. After everything is said and done and you put it all together, you now have a new handle for your phone and a new lens mounting system, which honestly I'm really enjoying. It looks really cool. It adds a level of seriousness to the phone. It makes me focus more on what I'm doing. I like that. But besides that, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned for next week's video, where I'm going to make a new housing for an old speaker that I have using Super Sculpey. So, hope you all enjoyed. Have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video.